Assalamu alaikum. Let's start the first lecture of wireless communication. So,
Walaikum Assalam.
wireless communication systems can be divided in two types based on the installation or deployment. One are called infrastructure, and other one is infrastructure, and other one is ad hoc systems or modes. Infrastructure basically are for the uh, long-term usage or for there to provide different services, and ad hoc based on the need base. They are temporary or maybe for a few time, maybe depending on the nature of what kind of ad hoc are required. So infrastructure can be example like cellular communication. As you can see in the figure, we have base stations. So base stations are deployed uh, based on the infrastructure, because base station not only alone will serve the users, it need infrastructure, BAC, MAC, transponder, HLR, whole the communication system should be there. So that is your infrastructure. Investment is huge, but it also, when it's established, it can earn a lot. Whereas on the other side, ad hoc networks like Bluetooth, we transfer anything from one mobile to another, or we share the hotspot using Wi-Fi from one device to another, or multiple devices are communicating with each other for a particular time, for particular requirement, for particular transfer of files, or we are playing some games through LAN. So that is again infrastructure. But if we are doing randomly something and you are using protocols like Bluetooth, Zigbee, or hotspot, Wi-Fi hotspot, so that kind of communication is your termed as the ad hoc mode or ad hoc based. So infrastructure, if you compare the two, infrastructure are fixed, pre-located cell sites, and base station, no fixed base station, very rapid deployment. So that is the advantage of ad hoc. Whereas infrastructure, you have to plan the system, plan the network, static backbone network topology, highly dynamic network topology with multiple hop, relatively favorable environment because we can plan it, and stable connectivity. Hostile environment, losses, noise, can't plan for it, and irregular connectivity. Whereas infrastructure has detailed planning before base station can be installed, and all network don't need any planning, basically automatically forms and confirms to change. Then we have modes of communication, simplex and duplex. In duplex, we have two, full duplex, half duplex. Another is kind of full duplex. Here it is two-way simultaneous communication. In that full duplex, that is called co-time, co-frequency, full duplex communication. In that same channel, same time, same frequency is used for transmission as well as reception. Here, full duplex, let's say two-way communication. For that, it is necessary that the uplink and downlink frequencies should be separated from each other. There should be a duplex between the transmitter and receiver. Duplex here means separation between time and frequency, between the uplink and downlink frequencies, either in terms of time or frequency. That is your full duplex communication. Like in cellular communication in GSM, we have different uplink frequency and different downlink frequency. So that is two-way communication. So a user, when use cellular communication via GSM, okay. Okay, let's first let me add 61. Yes. 61 added. So other is simplex, that is one-way communication. Watch television or hear FM, that is one-way communication. Half duplex communication, only one direction at one time. So you can say that the other form that is not mentioned here. So in duplex, that will be co-time, co-channel frequency, full duplex communication. That is the you can say the advanced version of half duplex. As in a half duplex, we have two-way communication, but only one channel available. So either you can use that channel for transmission or you can use that channel for reception. As we do in walkie-talkie, only one person can communicate. Either he can listen or he can talk. So he cannot do both things at the same time. So that is not the simultaneous communication. But with that new type of duplex, co-time, co-channel frequency, full duplex, we can uh, transmit as well as receive at the same time using same frequency or time channel. Whereas in full duplex, we have two different separate channels for transmission and reception. So that is the difference between the new and old type of full duplex communication. Wireless communication systems can be used to provide various kinds of services. Services eventually dictate the design of these systems. So you can divide the wireless communication in these types based on their application. So ad hoc and infrastructure, that was based on the deployment, and this type is based on the application. Systems can be broadcast, paging, cellular communication, trunked radio system, call-less telephony, PANs, LANs, etc. Like broadcasting, maybe satellite broadcasting, paging, maybe a small network, a small enterprise using maybe some communication for paging, cellular communication, commercial communication network, trunk radio systems for long haul communications, call-less telephony where exchanges are not available. We go with the call-less telephony, and then we have personal area networks or the local area networks by the home base, office based networks. So based on these, we have different applications of every. Some are commercial, some are amateur networks. So all are comes under the umbrella of wireless communication. Like broadcast in this application, information is transmitted to different, possibly mobile users, possibly mobile or users. Like here, uh, transmitter broadcasting to the car as well as the this lady. This may be a radio, which is being broadcast like AM, FM radio, or we may have nowadays satellite channels, maybe broadcast on demand to different users. So that is broadcast means thing that can be communicated to masses, like television channels are being broadcast through satellite to masses, where masses can see characteristic propagation of characteristic properties of broadcast radio are the information is only sent in one direction. So like television channels are being broadcast only one direction, we can watch, we cannot communicate with the channels. The broadcast station sends information on the radio or TV receivers. Usually the transmitted information is the same for all the users. That is another property. It's not different for different users. Like uh, not always true. Nowadays we have uh, PTV Flex, Netflix, and other Amazon Prime Video and other platform, OTT platform, where you can see the uh, video on demand, content on demand. You pay for that. You subscribe for the basic subscription. Then you can watch all the content available, or you can pay extra to see the demanded content. Not always true. For example, in the case of pay-per-view services. So pay-per-view services are the same kind of services that I was talking. Several transmitters may send the same information. Example, AM, FM, digital audio broadcasting or digital video broadcasting. So these this was the broadcast. Then we have paging. These systems also use unidirectional wireless communications. They often cover a relatively small area such as a city. Unlike the conventional broadcast networks, information sent on paging networks is not continuously transmitted. Uh, SMS are sent via paging channels in GSM. So paging is kind of like for uh, medium to large enterprises like our university, Mehran University, is spanning from on many acres, you can say. So the departments are not close to each other. So there are many sections like administration section is on one side, departments or some departments are one side, uh, main central canteen on other side, transport section on other side. So they are far from each other. At least you need a vehicle to be from one department to another. So in that case, like we have in our department for communication, we use PABX intercom facility. We have our own private branch exchange. Using that, we communicate through wired communication, but that can also be the paging. But paging is like maybe someone registrar wants to meet someone, so he will page his number on his number, and like a message can be like meet me at a certain time. So so this system is particularly useful in hospitals where for emergency they contact their doctors via this system. So that's a one small screen, can be uh, can be in your pocket or on in the connected with your uh, pen, from where you can see what message is coming in terms of emergency. You can see and respond. But that is not the commercial. Its uses personal or within the enterprise, and it is not voice communication. It is only SMS. Short messages can be sent through this paging system. Then the commercial usage of this paging type of network on the large scale for the entire city or the whole country can be cellular communication. Economically, the most important form of wireless communication. It is characterized by the following properties. Information flow is bidirectional, full duplex communication. Uh, so this is an infrastructure communication system where you have to build the infrastructure. That is one-time investment, and then you can expand your footprint over the cities and different cities or the country, and then you can like subscribe. If users are subscribing, you will be earning good revenue through this, and it is very also cheaper or economical for the users. As you see in our country, 4 or 5 operators are there, and the now there are different packages available for internet voice. So uh, initially it was very expensive, but nowadays it is, when once the deployment has been completed, now the networks are like giving free minutes and other extra etc MBs. Then we have trunking radio systems, variant of cellular phones. They enable communication between multiple cellular phones even without a core backbone network, often used by police department, fire department, taxis, ambulances, rescue and management department, etc. That is terrestrial trunked radio is a popular trunking radio system. Uh, this kind of emergency system, if you see some like military based content, maybe a movie or drama, you will always see a person carrying a bag with an antenna and a particular set of phone. So that is an example of trunking radio system where you have a radio that is transmitting, and you have the receiver. So you can communicate with the transmitter that is far from you. No need of backbone, only basically these are the transmitter receiver communicating via that channel. So these emergency services people also had this system where so in that the advantage is that you don't need any, like police has this in their uh, petrol cars, walkie-talkie type of system installed on the dashboard where they communicate. So they have the antenna connected to their system, and in that particular area, like let's suppose Hyderabad city, they have somewhere there trunking radio system, transmitters as well as the receiver. So one vehicle will be communicating with the other vehicle through that trunking system. So the communication to that trunk, and when one is communicating, it can be heard by all. And when one want to respond, it will have to press some button in that system. Then it can respond, and everyone else will listen there. It's not like one-to-one communication, it is one-to-all communication. So either it is communicated from the center, or it is from the headquarter, or it is communicated from the one of the patrolling officers responding to that call made from the center. So that is trunking radio system. Its characteristic properties are information flow one to one, one to many, and one to all. All are possible depending on the application. One to one means from person to headquarter, one to many, from headquarter to all, and one to all. Can prioritize calls, that is, if all lines are busy, trunking radio system will disconnect lower priority calls to connect a higher priority call. Makes sense for emergency services. Some trunking radio systems can also be act as relays to extend the range of the system. That is quite possible in that. So, but this, its usage is not the commercial usage. It is for the emergency services, for different departments. They use for their own purpose, own safety, own requirement. But its usage is not commercial. Not every common people use this system. Particular departments do have that. Cordless telephony, popular but obsolete now. A wireless link between a handset and a base station connected to the public telephone system. All calls are routed through the public telephone system. You can see here PSTN is connected to base station, and that is connected to a person, and we call this cordless phone. Another scenario is we have PSTN and a PABX, and a person connected to this is has a, again, that is called wireless PABX. So this particular scenario, like where we don't find the PTCL or PSTN type of network, local exchanges unavailable. Uh, so if users want to connect with the local exchanges, they go with this uh, cordless telephony. You might have seen in the rural areas of Sindh where you will find the large antennas installed in the house, uh, and phone is connected to that. That antenna will be connected to PABX wirelessly to extend the range, and then that PABX will be connected to PSTN. So instead of installing a separate PABX for that particular area for few users, you can have the cordless telephony. But nowadays we have mobile phone, cellular communication or cellular telephony is available in every corner of this country. So that's why this cordless telephony is no more popular in our country. Its characteristic properties include information flow is bidirectional. Every home or office can have their own base station. Is mobile, can also be used with private automated broad exchange. These were the advantages when are very popular. This was very popular when we don't have the cellular communication, but now we have the cellular communication. So it's kind of replacement we have. Whereas cordless telephone was expensive, and it has a particular issue with the birds. If birds sit on the antenna, it will not work. It will destroy. It was very like you can say dipole antenna, I think. So it has its issues, but now we don't need it. It's obsolete now completely. Wireless standards, coverage size, so different protocols here mentioned. and their coverage areas mentioned. The footprint is shown, that from there you can say that the area is getting larger and larger from PAN to radio access network, that is 802.22 WAN. On one side it is 16E and 20. We have 3GPP, 3GPP2, GSM, OMA orthogonal multiplexes, metropolitan area network. We have hyper-access, that is replacement of WiMAX. On the other side, LAN, HyperLAN to Wi-Fi, and PAN, that is personal area networks, HyperPAN, ETSI, and on the other side we have UWB, Bluetooth, and Wi-Media. So Bluetooth, where has very low range. Then we have LAN. In that we have Wi-Fi and HyperLAN, better range than the Bluetooth, much better range. Then we have metropolitan area network. On one side we have WiMAX, on other side we have HyperAccess. So more coverage area than the LAN. And when we have wide area network, in that we have cellular communications, 802.16e, that is your WiMAX, mobile WiMAX, not popular in Pakistan. Watin used to have 16D, so that is again dismantled. But on the other side, we have this 3GPP architectures networks, very popular in Pakistan, cellular communication. And then we have RAN, that is not deployed yet in Pakistan. Whereas sensors, we have ZigBee and R2ID, RFID on the European side, this one on the American side, on the IEEE side. So their range is very small, even the same as the Bluetooth. So here we discuss one by one all these different types of network depending on the distance. Similar working principle to cordless telephony, that is wireless LANs. Difference is that WLAN connect user equipment with a data network, that is internet. So cordless telephony for voice communication, and wireless LAN or the WLAN, popularly known as Wi-Fi, is for the data communication or the data transmission. WI is for the wireless and FI for the fidelity. So that is full form of Wi-Fi, wireless fidelity, and it has various standards. Nowadays we have much more advanced standards of Wi-Fi. These were some basic standards at the time when it was introduced, A, B, G, N, depending on the amount of bits per second we can transmit through different standards. Then we have wireless personal area networks. These are similar to wireless local area networks, but much smaller coverage area, intended for simple cable replacement. Characteristic properties include short range, tens of meters, low power consumption, high data rate, several MBs to 100 MBs. Popular WPAN systems are based on infrared, Bluetooth, ultra wideband, and ZigBee. Applications include TV remote, wireless headphones, wireless peripherals, devices, keyboard, mouse, printer. So even now iPod that we have, they are again connected to Bluetooth. So all these applications comes in the wireless personal area network, smaller in size than the wireless local area network, than the Wi-Fi. The body area networks connect everything you carry on you and with you, that is your body, potential application, body sensor, fitness monitoring, wearable, audio wearable, uh, mobile devices, video stream, and remote control, etc. So these can be the fitness freak people can use these wireless body area networks. Requirements for services: not all wireless communication systems need to provide high data rates or have large coverage area. These systems are designed keeping in mind their application. So it is not always the data rate that we are looking for, but the application, particular application, like if you want to monitor your heart rate, you can have some uh, body area network device with you that will monitor your heart rate and communicate with your mobile that is also with you. So that doesn't need any large coverage area or the high data rate. A few bits per second transmitted and few uh, meters of coverage area will also be sufficient. A wireless communication system may be designed according to the following requirements. On top, we have data rate. Then, secondly, we have coverage area. Then, the capacity, how many numbers can be served, number of users, mobility, power consumption, use of a spectrum, direction of transmission, quality of service. So, use of a spectrum, that is when we purchase some spectrum, how much we have to pay, that is one thing. So this spectrum is directly proportional to data rate. Higher the spectrum, higher will be the data rate, but we don't want to invest huge amount in on the spectrum. We want to use this spectrum in more efficient manner, and within that spectrum we want to transmit as much data rate as possible. Then we want to also increase the footprint coverage area. If coverage area is there, capacity will also increase, mobility will be there, and then power consumption. It should be efficient, EPNR should be low. Direction of transmission, whether it is bidirectional, unidirectional, broadcast, one-to-one, one-to-many type of communication. So that is should be determined, and what quality of service we are promising. So these are some requirements that should be taken into account before designing or deploying any wireless communication system. Data rate as a requirement. Cellular communication systems these days require a high data rate because of the services we use on our cell phones. Again, these are some social apps that we use on our mobile. Therefore, even 3G is not enough motivation to go for 4G, maybe 5G and 6G. Speech communication require anywhere between 5 and 64 kilobits per second, depending upon the quality of service. A landline telephone network capacity uses 64 kilobits per second, but a cellular phone may require only 10 kilobits per second. Okay, wireless sensor networks don't usually require large data rates. A few kilobits per second should be more than enough. So if you take the data rate as a requirement, cellular communication may need higher data rate, but if you deploy a wireless sensor network, it doesn't need to have large data rate. A few kilobits per second will work because a sensor, the job of a sensor to transmit a particular data, a number. That number may be temperature number or any other critical parameter that it is bearing, like temperature, speed, pressure, stress, etc. And a radio transmitter sends the information wherever it needs to be sent. Since these properties might only change over seconds or milliseconds, therefore we don't need to transmit a large number of data symbols every second. We can transmit that periodically after 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. On the other hand, a central node in a WSN will collect data from a large number of sensors. Therefore, it has more data to transmit over a short duration of time. In this case, a higher data is required. Then if you say range as a requirement, by range we mean the distance between the transmitter and receiver. Range can depend on the type of service. Body area 1 meter, personal area network 10 meter, wireless LAN area network 100 meter. For cellular it can be from 5 to 30 kilometer, can also be smaller, for example in case of femtocells. So they depend on the congestion or the congestion of the population. Then the cell size will be smaller, uh, much smaller than 30. So this graph shows you data range versus, sorry, range versus data rate. Uh, if you pick a particular, like we say the personal area network, so range is 10 meter, but it can transmit up to 1 gigabits per second. Wireless LAN, Wi-Fi has a range in between 10 meter to 100 meter, but it can transmit 100 megabits per second. Fixed wireless range can be 10 kilometer, but it can only transmit up to 10 Mbps. Similarly, so the range, if you increase the range, the data rate will decrease. Like satellite phones, they are hundred of kilometers distance between transmitter and receiver. They can only transmit 10 kilobits per second. Then we have capacity. A commercial wireless communication system needs to accommodate as many users as possible to generate revenue. GSM based on TDMA and UMTS based on CDMA. More users typically means smaller data rate if bandwidth remains the same. So we look for the ways to increase the data rate, keeping the bandwidth constant, because bandwidth is expensive. So one way is to increase the data rate is to purchase new bandwidth, but that is not the feasible way or the ideal solution to that. We need to find some practical solution to increase the data rate while keeping the bandwidth at the same values. Mobility wireless communication systems will be designed differently depending on whether the communication system is mobile. Then we have to keep the uh, factor that will affect the communication channel is your Doppler spread. For example, IEEE has different standard for fixed WiMAX and different standard for mobile WiMAX. So when the channel is mobile, it can be affected by the Doppler or other things. Maybe we need to see the coherence bandwidth and other things for mobility if we are providing that. Power consumption is critical, especially for wireless devices. While designing the wireless communication system, we need to consider power supplied from rechargeable batteries, power supplied from mains, LTE designed in a way that user equipment uses smaller amount of power than the base station. So like we have in GSM, we have uplink and downlink frequencies. So we kept the uplink frequency lower than the downlink frequency because your User equipment or the mobile from the user side will be on the rechargeable batteries, on the passive batteries. It's not the on the power, unlike the base station, which will be running on the direct AC power from Wabda. So lower the frequency, lower will be the power consumption. So that is the idea behind keeping the uplink frequency lower compared to the downlink frequency. Same as reverse in satellite communication. In satellite communication, uplink frequency is higher than the downlink frequency. So you might be asked this question in the interviews. Many people ask this one, why we have different standards in uplink and downlink frequencies in cellular communication and in satellite communication. So the answer is in satellite communication, Earth station is on the ground and can be run on the direct power, whereas the uh, forest station is in the space, and in the space there is no power available. Solar power is there, so the power requirement there will be or the power supply will be maybe lower than the earth, so we have the lower frequency at the uh, forest station, but that is reversed to the cellular communication. Use of spectrum. Spectrum is a scarce resource and yet inefficiently assigned. Now the focus is on designing wireless communication systems which are spectrally efficient. So that is all about today's research is in this direction where we want to increase the spectral efficiency. Means we want to transmit as many bits as possible in 1 hertz. Cognitive radio systems are expected to search for unused frequency bands for transmission. So cognitive radio is kind of one of the proposed solutions to counter this spectrum inefficient use or to counter this scarcity of spectrum resources. But still a long way to go. Maybe a better solution may be proposed. Maybe a better solution should be proposed that should be a deployable solution. Cognitive radio is still not deployed by many countries, even not recognized by many countries. So it is just an idea, or the proposal is still in progress. So we stop here. We will continue from the generations of cellular communication systems in the next class. And the next class is on Saturday. Uh, from 9:30 to 11:45. Okay, so we will meet on tomorrow, Saturday, at 9:30. If you have any questions, you can ask.